Thank you. Good evening from Bangkok. They are still here searching the debris that you can see behind me after that devastating earthquake in neighbouring Myanmar, which brought the high-rise building here to the ground. And tonight we have a special report for you from inside Myanmar by our correspondent Yogita Lamai. The military government says that the death toll now stands at almost 2,900 people. But as you'll see from Yogita's report, the actual death toll could be much higher. The military government seized complete power there in 2021 and enforced an authoritarian rule that pushed the country into civil war. Now, since around lunchtime on Friday, the ruling military have refused to let any journalists enter after that earthquake happened. But Yogita managed to get into Myanmar and then travelled undercover to the epicentre near the second biggest city of Mandalay. She is one of the first foreign journalists to enter the country since the disaster struck. Yogita joins me now. Tell me more, first of all, about what you found there.
Well, you actually start seeing signs of the destruction on the way to Mandalay, the main highway. There are cracks along the road. There are parts which are caved in. And actually, after a point, the main highway is damaged, so you can't use it. You've got to take an alternative route. And then when you start entering Mandalay, bit by bit, the extent of the damage begins to reveal itself, as we'll see in our report. And a warning to our audiences that some viewers might find some of the images in this report difficult to watch.
A densely populated city that took the direct hit of the biggest earthquake to rock this country in a century. As we drove into Mandalay, bit by bit, we witnessed the scale of the devastation. Nearly every street we turned into, we saw scenes like this. Myanmar has said it's not allowing foreign journalists in since the earthquake. We went in undercover to show the extent of the impact. Access to the major collapse sites was difficult. But we managed to slip in to see this Buddhist academy, where scores of monks are fear-trapped. Rescuers who've arrived from India are trying to dig them out, but they told us in this kind of collapse, it's unlikely they'll find survivors.
We've heard varying estimates of how many people might be trapped inside here. Some say more than 80, others say more than 100. When the earthquake struck, Buddhist monks were taking an exam in an examination hall, and the floors collapsed one on top of the other, trapping them underneath these concrete blocks. What's also making the rescue operation even more difficult is how hot it is. It's really sweltering. And just from everywhere around us, we can smell dead bodies.
It takes them a few hours to finally manage to pull one body out. The work is demanding and slow. Families who've been waiting in the compound for news of their loved ones rush to the ambulance to take a look. The stench here is now overwhelming. An official shows a photo and explains that the body was found crushed under a pillar. Agonizing moments pass as the families try to identify the dead man. But he's not recognizable. 29-year-old U Thuzana is one of those who was taking the exam. His father, a farmer, Ula Ong, tells us, knowing my son ended up like this, I'm inconsolable. I'm filled with grief. In this moment of loss, the only solace these families have is that someone is looking for their sons. But we saw multiple sites where rescuers haven't even reached. This is a hotel that was being converted into an office space. 5 workers were trapped inside. One of them is 21-year-old Saihan Pa.
Why is Amazon paying me $63,000 a month? Well, I didn't make this kind of money.
His mother, Nan Shin Hain, has been waiting on the street outside for nearly 5 days for someone to go and search for her son.
I'm very distressed. I'm just holding on, hoping to see my son's face. Whether he's dead or alive, I just want to see his body.
Not far away, we stop when we see a funeral ritual being carried out just by the side of the road. The destroyed home behind belonged to a couple in their 60s, Ula On Keng and his wife, Dao Mamalpe. Their bodies were dug out from this rubble not by authorities, but by locals using basic equipment. They were found with their arms around each other. It's unclear if these deaths are being counted, or if we'll ever know how many have really died.
We're seeing scenes of destruction like this one across Mandalay, and the reality on the ground is there just aren't enough pairs of hands to dig through the rubble to look for survivors or even the dead. And a large part of the reason for that is the complicated political scenario in this country. It's got a civil war going on, and since 2021 it's been run by a military government which took control in a coup.
Myanmar's ruling junta has uneasy relations with many foreign countries, especially Western nations, which means more foreign manpower cannot freely come in. This has already hampered the possibility of finding survivors. We also managed to slip into Mandalay's main hospital, where we found more evidence of how overwhelmed facilities are.
What we're seeing here is hospitals that are stretched past capacity, and they can't even go inside because the building is damaged. And so people are just being treated here outside. There's a shortage of medicines, of blood. The Myanmar government has put out an appeal for all of those things, but much more is needed here.
14-year-old Shwe Gi Tun Fu has an injury to her head. She's responsive, but in a serious condition. Her family by her side. In another bed, Zaza says she has an abdominal injury, her daughter propping her up. Everywhere we see families who are stepping in to do what trained medical staff should. There aren't enough doctors or nurses. We had to leave quickly for fear of being apprehended by authorities. And we couldn't go to see if the morgue was also overwhelmed. Parks and spaces all over the city have become makeshift camps for those displaced by the earthquake. There's no official count of how many have lost their homes. The aid distribution we saw was largely being carried out by small groups with limited stocks. Not enough supplies for the enormous needs. People scrambling to take what they can get. We met Dao Kin Sao Mint, who tells us she's lost her home.
I don't know anything anymore. My heart is still trembling. It's really difficult. My house collapsed. It's gone. There is no one to rescue us. Please help us.
Even those whose homes are intact don't dare go inside. There have been multiple big aftershocks in the days following the earthquake. This is a city living outdoors, a city living in terror.
Well, Yogita has now left Myanmar and joins me here in Bangkok tonight. It is such a powerful report and so clear when you watch it that there is an absolute lack of humanitarian aid.
Not enough aid coming in. There's not enough care for all of the people who are injured and just lying outside a hospital. And crucially, not enough trained rescuers on the ground. And a big part of the reason for that is this is a country that's run by a government, run by a military junta, which has an uneasy relationship with many countries around the world, including the UK and the US, which means not enough foreign rescuers are able to come in. There are rescue teams from countries like India, China, Russia, and a few others, but it's not enough. And interestingly, because the civil war has been going on and the junta has only announced a ceasefire today, we've also not seen Myanmar's military being pressed into action for relief and rescue in the way that it perhaps should have been.
And what we also saw there were the many, many challenges that people are facing without shelter, without food, water, medical treatment, but also among them is clearly the fear that they have.
Absolutely. I mean, there's trauma everywhere. When you speak to people, you know, they almost start crying in the next couple of minutes. And once it becomes evening, you just see people come out of their homes, bringing their mattresses, bringing benches, and literally this is a city that's sleeping outdoors because there's been aftershocks nearly every night. We experienced one that was quite big, magnitude 5 aftershock. But there's also other fears because this is a government that's quite oppressive, so people are also quite hesitant to speak out.
And it really makes a difference. Yogita, thank you so much. And you can read more about Yogita's journey into Myanmar on the BBC News website. That is all from us on the team here in Bangkok.